Good morning. It's Outside the Classroom. I'm science teacher and meteorologist Ryan Miller. Thank you for joining us. It's cold outside this morning, folks. We have temperatures that are pretty much where they should be for this time of year, but because we've had warmer temperatures in the past, it's actually feeling a little bit colder right now, at least to me. It is Spirit Week here on Outside the Classroom. The high school I teach at, Washington Liberty in Arlington, the students there decided to have a Spirit Week just to try and raise some spirits, and today's theme is tie-dye. So yes, I am wearing a tie-dye shirt just to represent the theme of the day, but it is just too cold to be rolling around here in a t-shirt right now. But if you have a tie-dye shirt, put it on. If you have it on, great. Send us a photo. Let us know where you are, and really, we would appreciate interacting with you any way we can. We're going to be talking about the other idea and theme of this week, and that's the theme of relationships. Relationships in nature, relationships in science, weather, people interacting as well. We're talking and thinking about relationships, and we're here to provide any activities that you could potentially do at home with your kids to keep that learning process going. Easy way to share things with us, photos, videos. If you could go to WJLA.com/chime in. Just type that into your browser or your phone and send us your photos, your videos. Just say hi, take a picture, let us know you're out there, and let us know that we can, if we have a question, or if you have a question, we can help you out in any way, shape, or form. And so that's one of the ways you can get to us here. Let's look at the Spirit Week themes for a moment. Yesterday, we were wearing our jerseys and representing our favorite sports teams, and today we have our tie-dye on. Tomorrow is dress-up day. Get out of those pajamas. Many of us have been wearing jogging suits and sweatpants and pajamas here for the last several bit of time, so we're going to continue tomorrow with the theme of looking at dressing up. And then on Friday, rep your school. Wherever school you go to, wear those colors loud and proud, and certainly please let us see those photos and share them with us. Now, speaking of sharing things, we have a couple of folks that sent us their jerseys from yesterday. This is Mr. McCarthy in Arlington representing, I don't know what team that is, but Mr. Brown, and I don't know what team that is either. I am not a soccer aficionado, so my apologies, Mr. Brown, Mr. McCarthy, but thank you for sharing your photos with us. And please send us more. Speaking of sharing, let's get right to it. Here's a video that Max sent us working with his volcano.
Today I'm going to make a volcano. You need a water bottle, dish detergent, vinegar, food coloring, and baking soda. First you pour the vinegar into the water bottle. Then you put some food coloring, whatever color you want. Then you put dish detergent, because you gotta have lava. Then you put in baking soda for the chemical reaction.
Then back up. What do you think?
Good.
Your first science experiment from home.
Yes.
So what do you think, Maxwell? How do you think? How do you feel?
Good.
What do you think about science?
Excellent. Can we do
Project.
one more?
No, I have to go back to work. This is called homeschooling. I can't.
Please, Mom.
I gotta go back to work, baby.
Leslie Estes, a friend of ours here, sent us that photo, or I should say that video of her son Maxwell. That smile is worth 1,000 words, really, and 1,000 pictures. Maxwell, thank you for showing us the relationship between baking soda and vinegar. Those two entities by themselves are non-reactive, but if you put them together, they have a relationship. That was certainly evident in the chemical reaction showing up. We are going to continue to provide a resource in terms of teaching and learning at home. Some of the things that, as an educator and from my perspective, that we like to share and talk about, if you are involved in the education at home with your kids right now, and let's face it, we all are, really, in some respects, there are some things you can do to make learning more efficient and to make it stick. The learning process, really, if you can activate prior knowledge, ask your children, what are some things you know about the topic before you actually start looking at learning and doing some things with the topic. You can make learning active. Get outside. Maxwell had a perfect example, getting out, doing something, learning, but try to go beyond just doing the activity. Maybe you could do some research together with your child, depending upon their ability level, and figure out, well, what's happening, for example, with the baking soda and with the vinegar reacting. What are the chemical reactions? Why did that happen? And then also think about the idea of multiple intelligences. Howard Gardner, a famous educator, really did a lot of pioneering research on this education topic, and it's the idea of each of us having a way to think of and deal with, and certain topics that really do come a little bit easier to some of us. So does your child like being outside? Well, certainly get them outside. Speaking of outside as well, we have a photo that I took from far away. I've got a bird's nest in my backyard. Speaking of a relationship between the bird and this pine tree that's in my backyard, I don't know what type of eggs these are. So we're going to show you a picture of the eggs, and I would hope that you could please let us know. If you know anything about birds and birds' eggs, please tell me. Interact with us. Facebook, Instagram, anywhere. Just let us know what type of birds should we be expecting in that nest very soon. It's outside the classroom. I'm Ryan Miller. It's cold outside as well. You can probably see my breath, but take a look. We have a bird's nest. I found this in the backyard. This photo was taken from far away. You don't want to get up close to the nest and potentially disturb it, in the sense that the adult birds, whatever birds these are, would not come back to the nest. But if you know anything about birds or bird eggs, please, could you help me identify those eggs? And you can get in touch with us on WJLA.com/chime in. You can visit the Outside the Classroom website. I'm on Twitter as well. So please feel free to interact with us. Let us know what those birds are in those birds' eggs. Speaking of interactions and relationships in biology, I took this video last year of some flowers that are right near my house. And one of the things we'd love for you to try and do with your children at home is to make them more observant of just the little things happening in and around where you live. If you're in an apartment, around the building. If you are at your own house or townhouse, then take a look at what's going on around you. This is a relationship between the ants in the yard and the peonies. These are perennial, meaning they come up every year. The flowers in the garden between my house and my neighbor Ian's house. And these flowers, they're beautiful, they smell great. They won't come out until the ants help to unwrap basically all of the material that's packaging that flower and get it up and open. So that's a great example of a relationship happening between a plant and an animal, and that's an idea that you could potentially do outside with your kids. Look for those little simple relationships that show up. We're going to continue to look at the idea of relationships. A friend of mine, Jerome Washington in Tampa, Florida, she's a science teacher. She has some ideas of things to look out for in terms of relationships and science at home.
Hi, it's Miss Washington. I'm a science teacher from Tampa, Florida, and I'm here to talk about relationships. Now, relationships are one of the most important things. They are between people, they can be between other organisms, or they can even be between concepts. One relationship that I like to talk about is the relationship between humans and bees. Bees are amazing and they pollinate mostly all of our crops. But there was a bee on my porch the other day and I was going to run from it, but I really tried not to kill it because I know how important they are. So as I think about my relationship with bees, what are some important relationships to you? What are some relationships that maybe you can't do without, even though sometimes they might be a little irritating? So just give us an idea of what relationships are important and why. I look forward to hearing from you. Have fun.
Jerome Washington, thank you for sending that to us, and please interact with us at WJLA.com. I took this picture. This is another example of a relationship that we see in the environment, and with this picture, there are some deer that are eating. It's on a golf course, and so yes, we as humans, as we interact and change the environment, still have lots of relationships that we have to manage with all of the wildlife and animals that live around us. And we have another relationship. This is another activity that you can do outside with your kids. It's easy, it's simple. If you're in an apartment building, you can go to the yard, right in the lawn, right outside, right out back here. I have some clover. I looked already for 4 leaves, didn't see any of those, unfortunately. But clover actually has an incredibly important relationship with the environment and the world around it. I'm going to zoom this in, and my wonderful photographer Rich is going to try his best to show and give you some examples. If you can see as I begin to show you this, the roots on the clover have little bumps that show up, and you can probably see them in some of this image that's showing up here. Those little bumps that you see on those roots, those bumps actually are houses for little microscopic bacteria. And these bacteria can help to take nitrogen out of the atmosphere and change it and turn it into a type of nitrogen that can help to make sure that the plants around it get fertilized and grow. So that's an example of a relationship that you can take a look at. Here's some other things to consider.
Hi again, it's Donna. And when I heard that Outside the Classroom was talking about relationships this week, I thought it might be helpful to give families some ideas for how to work with students around relationships between letters and sounds. Particularly on a day like yesterday where it was super rainy, you might want some things to do inside. So here's my quick idea. So what you'll need, magazines you have lying around the house, a piece of paper, something to write with, tape, and scissors. Glue would also work too. So the first thing you really want to do is make a 4 square. So you just divide your paper into 4 parts to provide your students with some structure for the activity. Next up, write 4 different letters, 1 in each box. So I chose to work with S, T, P, and H. Once you've done the initial setup, you can really release your students to do the work for a while you go and do something that you might need to do. So the direction to your student would be, look through your magazines and try to find words that have the letters from their paper. They can cut the letters out and glue them in the appropriate box. So here I found a couple of H, found another T, and I found an S. You might tell your student, find 3 or 4 of each letter. So this gives them an opportunity to look through reading material, identify the letter, cut the letter out, and put it in the same box with the corresponding letter. After they've glued down the letters in each box, you can challenge your student to turn the paper over and write as many words as they can that begin with that sound. So for example, your students might write words they already know, or they might try to write words that they're learning in school. They might be writing their sibling's name or their dog's name. Any words that they know that begin with that sound would be great. And this might take them some time. But again, it's reinforcing the relationships between letters and sounds. See you next time.
That is Donna McConnell, one of my very, very, very good colleagues that can put great things together for you and relationships between sounds and words. When we return, we're going to try and get this egg into that bottle. And more of that in just a few minutes.
As we continue to try to keep kids engaged outside of the classroom, I wanted to bring another game into the mix. Games can just be a fun way to almost learn without realizing that you're learning. And this is a game in particular that I love called Code Names. It's the pictures version. You can play it with words as well. And it's really all about finding relationships between the different images on the cards. It's something that is meant to be kind of a team game, but you can play it with 2 people, or if you have a kid at home, they can even play it on their own. So we've got a set of pictures already up here, and what I would do, and I've already had some time to look at these, but say I see 5 cards with the relationship of animals, and then I would say that to whoever I'm playing against, and they would try to pick the same 5 cards. So for instance, here we've got a dog, We've got a squirrel taking a shower. We've got a frog. We've got paw prints. And we have a cat with a lion shadow. So all of these images have a lot going on. They can be related in different ways. But this is an example of something that you could, of course, play if you have at home already. You could maybe order it online, or you can have kids create their own versions of these cards, as complex or as simple as you want it to be. Another example that I saw here was 3 cards related to plants. So we've got, I don't even know, a flower and some tree roots upside down here, some bells that are meant to look like, I think, lily of the valley, and a mushroom here. But this is an interesting card because it's also a building. So another way I could relate cards is say I see 3 cards related to buildings, and we've got this here. We've got the Leaning Tower of Pisa with a water slide, and we've got a home drawn by a kid on a little easel over here. So there are a lot of different ways that you can relate these cards, and I love the images because they are so complex. But again, you can play it with words and try to find different ways to tie meanings of words together, turn it into a game at home, have your kids make it themselves. Just another way to have them engaged and have a little bit of fun outside the classroom.
That was my colleague, meteorologist Rachel Kay, with another idea on what you could potentially do and a theme of relationships as it applies to games. Speaking of themes, we've got a few things to consider. It's Spirit Week here on Outside the Classroom. Show us your tie-dye. Wear some tie-dye, take a picture. You can interact with us here on WJLA.com/chime in. Please also, you can interact with us on Facebook. We're streaming on Facebook Live. And one of the things I would like to mention, Alex, hi and good morning to you. Thank you for watching. And Josephine, thank you for the kind words. I will keep trying to do a good job. Thank you for tuning in. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors. We're here to give you some activities that you can do at home. Send us some pictures of your tie-dye. We've got a website on WJLA.com, Outside the Classroom, resources for you to use at home. If you need to use a protractor to do one of the activities from yesterday, and if you don't have one, go to the website, download the protractor, print it out if you have a printer, and then go out and measure angles until your heart's content. We've got rulers, we've got some graph paper up there, everything for you here. And one of the other things we can think about is looking at the relationship between air pressure and eggs. So what I'm going to do is take a piece of paper. You need to do this obviously with some folks at home and make sure that you do this under adult supervision. But I'm going to get this fire going here on this piece of paper. It's a little wet. Get it going here. I'm going to drop the paper in there and let's see what happens. Does the egg end up getting into the bottle? We'll have that answer when we return. Good morning. This is Outside the Classroom. I'm meteorologist and science teacher Ryan Miller, trying to give you some ideas of things you can do at home to keep that learning process going while we're away from the classroom and away from school. Here's a good activity to do. Of course, you need some adult supervision. If you can find a glass bottle or a jug, I got this growler here, and I'm going to take a piece of paper and I'm going to put that piece of paper into the growler. I was going to try and see if I can get this going here. We've got a little bit of wind, and the idea here is to get this going and to try to insert the paper as quickly as possible after it starts to burn. Come on. It's a lot easier when you try to do this inside, so I would imagine. So we got the fire going here. I'm going to put the paper inside the jar, load this egg in here, and we're going to see if we can get this egg inside that jar. I'm a little skeptical myself, but nevertheless, that could be something that we could do. The idea is if you have the fire going inside the jar, that's actually going to heat up the gases inside the jar. Those gases will start to escape around the egg. That will end up then creating a vacuum inside of this jar that would suck the egg in. And I'm not having success because it's a little wet and it's a little cold out here, but that's an example of a relationship between the air temperature and the air pressure. And if you can squeeze air and compress it, it actually will heat that air up. A quick and easy example of that is if you can get a bike pump at home and you start pumping that bike pump, if you feel the tube that the bike pump is connected to, it's going to feel warm. You're compressing gases. Well, you can also do the opposite. If you have one of those air canisters that you use to clean a keyboard or something in your home, you can use one of those air canisters and then ultimately take that air canister, let the air out rapidly. If you feel the canister, you're letting the air expand. As it expands, it's going to cool off. That's the principle that helps drive and create air conditioning systems and refrigeration. So those are some examples of some of the things that we're doing. It's Spirit Week. We've got our tie-dye on. We're going to try to figure out to get this egg into this jug here in just a little while and hopefully get some things to work for us here. Please send us all of your information, your pictures, your questions. These are some pictures that were sent in. And that idea of connecting people and the relationship of people to nature, being outside and being away from the classroom does have its benefits. Nature can help to make us feel better. Thank you for watching Outside the Classroom. I'm meteorologist Ryan Miller. Please join us for more episodes all week long here on WJLA 24/7. morning. It's Outside the Classroom. I'm Ryan Miller. I'm a meteorologist, and I'm also a science teacher, and we really thank you for joining us here. It is Spirit Week on Outside the Classroom. The high school I teach at, Washington, Liberty, and Arlington, the students there organized this idea of the Spirit Week and tried to raise the spirits of all of the folks here in the area and that attend the school. The theme of today is tie-dye. It's too cold right now to wear the tie-dye without a jacket, but nevertheless, I've got it on. I've got my spirit going here. And please take some pictures of you wearing your tie-dye. Send it to us. WJLA, you can go to chime in at the top of the webpage, or you can hit us up on Twitter. I'm at @RyanMiller_weather, and there's lots of different ways to connect. We're on Facebook as well, Facebook Live. Please, if you're watching us on Facebook, let us know if we can answer questions or interact in any capacity with you. We've been looking at relationships during the show here this week, relationships with people. We've got a great video coming up here from the Spy Museum in DC. They sent us some ideas of how relationships are so important and play a big role between the spies that have certainly gone out and the relationships that those spies have with the folks that try to help them to get information. That video is coming up. We've been looking at the relationships that exist as well as we examine some of the features between temperature and air pressure. We've got a little experiment here we're going to try and do for you all at home, and this involves taking and warming up some air inside of a bottle. And if we warm that air up, well, let's just say I don't teach chemistry, and physics for that matter. I do teach some environmental science. We're having a hard time getting fire going today. But one of the things with air pressure and temperature as a relationship that we can look at and consider is that with air pressure and temperature, you actually have, as the temperature goes up, the air gets compressed, and that ultimately, hello? Well, we'll work on that fire later, but the whole objective and idea was to get the egg on top of the bottle and to get the egg sucked into the bottle. At some point, I will make this work, even if I have to spend all day on it. We'll get this on Twitter, and you can see it, that I'm not lying, that this egg will actually get into the bottle. So let's talk about some things here in relationships. There are certainly relationships occurring between people and the environment, and we also have that relationship, that big idea of relationships between all of us. Here's a video from the Spy Museum talking about and thinking of that relationship.
I'm Jackie Isle. I'm the Director of Youth Education at the International Spy Museum. And since we're inside these days and I hear we're talking about relationships, I thought it might be fun to talk about a secret relationship. And that is the relationship between a spy and a handler. What that means is that a handler is someone who works for an intelligence agency, and they go overseas and they find people who have access to secret information. Those people are the spies. And the problem is that in this relationship, they can't just get together for coffee, meet at a cafe, because they're really not supposed to be seen together. They're doing something very dangerous. They're passing secrets between each other. So they need to come up with a way to communicate with each other. We call this covert communication or secret communication, where they never meet with each other. And they do this through something called dead drops and concealment devices. I thought it might be fun while you're at home to maybe make your own concealment device where you can hide a secret message. So I'm going to give you one idea, and it's a concealment book. I made this one myself. It's a real book that has, real pages. You're going to need to get permission to use a book that you can destroy. So you need your parents' permission for this, but basically then you just, a few pages in, start cutting the pages out in the middle using and again you'll need supervision, a razor blade or an X-Acto knife, and just go slow as you cut around here, and then you use some regular white glue mixed with water and paint the side of it, wait for it to dry, and then you've got your own concealment device. You can hide a secret message in there, put the book on the shelf. No one knows it's there. And that's one way you can pass information secretly in your secret relationship between maybe two spies in your own house. And I think next time we'll talk maybe more about the relationship between letters and numbers and maybe do some codes and ciphers. But until then, happy spying and have fun with this. If you need help, just go on our website. It's a great place to look for resources. See you next time. Happy spying.
And thank you so much to our friends at the Spy Museum for some ideas and the ideas of relationships showing up with people and how those relationships can certainly be modified. We've been working on some experiments that we can do and that we can show you at home that are safe as long as you have an adult at home, some of them. And speaking of the relationships between spies, we also have, and we'll be putting this up on our Outside the Classroom website, an activity that you can do at home where you can create your own code. And you can use that code to communicate, certainly like spies would do. So we've got some codes and some examples of cipher systems. And one of the ways that you can kind of take and look at that idea of relationships, there are some cutouts that you can make to create your cipher wheel. So if you're looking for something to do today and it's a little too cold for you to get outside, well, try to make your own language, make up your own code, and see if you can communicate with others with using this code that you come up with. That's an idea that potentially you can do at home. We're going to be looking at the idea of relationships as they show up today in maps, and we're going to be doing some mapping. So if you have the ability to connect to the internet at home, I would advise you to get a pen and a paper ready here. We're going to give you some really cool things that you could potentially do online. And one of the ways that we can connect, we're going to be creating a map, and we're going to be mapping out all of the different types of weather phenomena that occur around Washington, D.C., all of our area. Last week, we asked you all to make and gave you an idea of how you can make a rain gauge at home. This is the rain gauge that I made, although it did fall apart a little bit because I didn't put a lot of effort into it. But we did get at our house last night, with the rainfall that came in here, I would say at about 0.2, almost 0.3 inches of rain. So 3/10, less than a half inch of rain. And to make a rain gauge, it's very simple. You can get a ruler, and then if you just get a ruler here and you get something that can collect your water, well, then you can measure the level of the water that came in there, and that's an idea for you to do at home. We'll take a look at the mapping activities coming up in just a few minutes.
Hello, Outside the Classroom. It's Deborah Porter with Mom's Mentoring Circle. Super excited to come to you today to share a fun activity that I think the whole family will enjoy, oral family history. It's a great opportunity for different generations to get together, to talk, to discuss, to talk about the similarities and the differences and how times have changed over the years. And so you only need a few things to do this: a smartphone or a laptop. You can either do a video call if this relative does not live with you. You can do that either on the smartphone or on a laptop. Many different applications: video calling, FaceTime, Zoom, several different options there. The other thing you can do if this person does live with you is have someone video the conversation, or you can just use a voice recorder if that's all you'd like to use. Here's the thing: having the voice or the image of our elders to pass down to other generations and future generations is really a gift and a treasure. And so here's what you want to do. You want to make sure that you have at least 10 or so open-ended questions. You don't want to ask yes/no questions because you're trying to connect. You're trying to gather information. And this is information that can be passed down that you can review and kind of go over and look at for years to come. And that will also help our children develop that skill of gathering information. And so questions like, Grandma, what did you like to do when you were my age? Or Grandpa, what were some of the things you and your best friend did? Or Auntie, tell me about the house or the town or the city that you lived in when you were my age. What were some of the things you liked about school? Any of these questions and more would be completely appropriate. The opportunity for each child in the family to interview someone different would be great conversation around the dinner table. So I look forward to hearing about some of your experiences in doing this. And right now, I'm going to make my call. Thanks so much.
Well, that's pretty cool. We can look at the relationships that exist between our ancestors, and if you wanted to create and do a map of things that are happening in and around your home, you can do that. So we're trying to give you ideas on how relationships and the theme of relationships can show up. One of the things I would like to try and foster with Outside the Classroom is the relationship between all of us that are watching and myself and the weather that we are experiencing wherever it is where we live. Last week we went out and we made rain gauges, and one of the ways to simply do that is to just get a container that you can use, and that container with a ruler here would allow you to measure the amount of rainfall. But we've got a great tool that can connect all of us and build a relationship up with all of us here so we can report the weather and you can share the conditions that you have at home and the amount or any type of precipitation that you get. So what I'm going to invite you to do, if you have a pen or a piece of paper or a pencil, is there's a website you can use. Our friends at ESRI, which is a Geographic Information Systems company, they're allowing us to use their online software here for the purposes of trying to build a relationship up between all of us. So if you go to arcgis.com or search that, we can then begin the process of putting together a relationship and building a map. All you have to do once you're at arcgis.com is click on the word map at the top of the screen. And that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to click on map. And after the map shows up, we're going to see what looks like a map. And what you can do with this map is modify it, look at it, take a look, and do anything you want. That's one way to just immediately start doing some mapping and look at and building a map up. But one of the other things you can do is, and this is what I'd like you to write down. If you can write down teach with GIS _ABC7. Teach with GIS _ABC7. If you can remember and write that down, what you can do is take Teach with GIS ABC7, and I want to thank my dear friend Catherine Kiernan for putting this together. We're going to go and copy this and then go back over to ArcGIS Online or arcgis.com. If you search the little search window here for the Teach with GIS _ABC7, it's going to allow us to do and create and do some mapping together. And we're going to have this feature called ABC7 Outside the Classroom. If you click on it, we can then start looking at and beginning to map the resources and the data that we collect around wherever it is you are. All you need to do is hit Open in Map Viewer, and it's going to bring us to a map that can help to connect us all together. When you return, we're going to look at how you can put your data onto this map. You can share your pictures and your reports with us, and we can all be meteorologists and report on the weather in and around DC. This is Outside the Classroom. It's tie-dye day. We've got it on. Please join us in just a few minutes and learn how to map. It's Outside the Classroom, and I'm Ryan Miller. Thank you for watching us this morning on Tie-Dye Day. It's rather chilly outside. I've got the tie-dye on here representing Washington Liberty High School. And please take a picture and interact with us. Show us your tie-dye. Show us your experiments. Ask us questions. Any way that we can help, we're here as a service to you to try and provide you some ideas that you can do at home while we're away from the classroom. Before we left, we were looking at the idea of taking the weather reports that we collect, whether it's the amount of rain that fell or the temperature or any type of condition that you'd want to share, and building a relationship between Outside the Classroom, myself, and all of you out there watching. There's a great resource that we can use, and I wanted to direct you to this resource. I will put up instructions on Outside the Classroom's website on how to do all of these things, but I'm going to walk you through some of the items that we can do. We're going to start by going to the website that would help us. This is arcgis.com. This is an Esri product, and Esri was kind enough to allow us to use and share this and use it as a tool to connect and create relationships. You go to ArcGIS online, and what you can do is click on the little magnifying lens. You do not need to sign in. This does not require you to do any type of sign up or create an account. And let's face it, I get tired of all those things asking for accounts and information. But if you click on that search and you type in teach with GIS _ ABC7, that's going to bring up a map that we've already made and that you can use. And if you do that and do the search, go to the website that shows up, which is the map that we made, ABC7 Outside the Classroom. If you click on it, it's going to bring you to a map that we have. You'll probably see much of the world right here, but you can zoom in, or if you don't know where you are in terms of where in the world. You can try to find your address or your place right here. But here's how you use this. Let's say we are here in Roslyn, and I have a little dot on the map right now. We have this thing called ABC7 outside the classroom, and if you hit Edit and you click on it, if you live in Clarendon and you're watching us, then you can simply click on Clarendon and you can put in your information. What day did you make an observation? April 1st. What was the time that you made your observation? You can collect it and say, okay, it was at 10:15. It's cloudy outside right now. We've got other choices. Rain, well, we actually did get some rain. Well, it's not raining right now, but the temperature is a balmy, and that is being sarcastic, 47 degrees. And then you can take, if you wanted to put a picture on this, you can choose a picture from your computer or send a picture to your computer. And then it allows us, if you hit enter, to then have a report. So we can click on your report. If you wanted to put your first name in there or any notes, then you can let us know what observations you're making wherever it is where you live. So this is a great resource to build a connection between all of us. And please, even if you just wanted to go to the map and put a pin on it and drop a point on there, you can take a picture and share the picture with us. We would love to interact and see pictures of your rain gauges, your anemometers, anything that would allow you to do some things inside the house, measure some variables outside of the house, and connect us all. That's an idea for you, and we're going to have instructions on how to do this on our website, WJLA.com, outside the classroom. Good morning. This is Outside the Classroom. We're outside. It's a chilly day. It's tie-dye day here for Spirit Week. I've got my daughter Kennedy, who's going to be my able assistant here for a few minutes, and we're going to provide an activity that you could do at home that would involve some math and using the relationships between all of the folks that we live with here in and around the DC area. This is an idea that would take a look at measuring and using mathematics in some capacity here, and Kennedy's going to be my assistant, and And we were taking a look at the idea of creating and making circles. And this is something we're going to do right outside of the front of our house. If you're going to do it on the street like we are, certainly make sure you have adult supervision. And please, please, please make sure that you can do things safely. If you have a big driveway, that's another great idea too. So one of the things I'm going to ask Kennedy to do is grab a piece of your favorite color sidewalk chalk. You could do this with a piece of paper, just on a much smaller scale. And you can use that sidewalk chalk. And here, stand over here for just 1 second. Our brave and noble mailman is making his way. Thank you very much. Making his way back to the post office here. So Kennedy, we're free and clear. We measured out a piece of rope or string or twine that's actually 6 feet in diameter, and we all know, face it, we know why 6 feet is important these days. Kennedy's gonna take her favorite piece of chalk, come on over here, and she's gonna put her chalk in the string that I measured out, and we're gonna pull it so it's tight. And we're going to construct a 6-foot circle, and she's going to go around. Remember to keep it tight and then go all the way around. Or how about this? Switch, you stand on the rope and I'll switch and do it. So this is a way for you to figure it out. Don't be afraid to stand on it. Keep it nice and tight for me. You can take a piece of chalk and your string, and then you can start to draw your circle. And you can do little arcs if you want to. And this is a great way to keep that 6-foot distance. You can go around. I'm taking my time here. But, oh, there's a checker on the street. Somebody threw away their checkers. Keep that foot on that, Kennedy. Keep your foot down tight. And you go around and you use your 6-foot radius to create a circle that would allow you the opportunity then to talk about and use geometry. So this is an idea for you that has someone in the middle, and here's our center point here with a 6-foot radius all around the circle. This would be a great way to set things up around wherever you live. If you wanted to use those 6 feet and be able to talk about measuring things like the radius, and then you could do that. The radius is half the distance across your circle. So there's a way to bring some math into the equation. We had March 14th a few days ago, Pi Day. This is a great way to look at that relationship with pi. If you can take a look at our website outside the classroom, there's a special mathematical relationship that exists between the distance around your circle and the distance across. Outside the classroom on WJLA.com will give you the information that you'd need to explore that mathematical relationship. I'm Ryan Miller. This is Kennedy Miller. We're wearing our tie-dye. This is Outside the Classroom. Thank you for watching. Please join us all week. We're going to try to provide you activities that you can do at home.